we, as a society, stop making intuition a weird thing? What if we stop making having a premonition, having a strange feeling, a thing that we all have to act like is weird, that we can only talk about with hushed voices or super late at night? The fact that we have suppressed intuition, psychic ability, extrasensory perception, whatever you want to call it, we have relegated it to the sidelines, to be something that only the freaks and the weirdos and the alternative people do. And yet this is something that has been with us for all of human history, for all of human time. And before we were human, before we lived in these bodies, we were spirits doing spirity things in other places. When you're not in the human body, when you're on the other side, you recognize that none of this is weird or woo-woo. It just is reality. And yet, for some reason, we have all agreed, not all, most, that reality is this one straight-laced, conventional structured thing that does not allow room for these spiritual gifts, this intuition, this psychic ability. And I'm calling it a gift, but it is a skill that every single person has. Doesn't mean you have the skill to do it for other people. Well, that's on a spectrum. But you have the skill to use it for yourself. You have a knowing for yourself. You have an ability to connect to it for yourself because you are a part of the infinite. You are a part of the divine. You are a soul living through the human body. And yet you never stop being the soul. Even if you never listen to your intuition, it never stops being there because it's an integral part of you. Even if you ignore it every step of the way, it's not like a human who's going to be offended. You ignored me all these years, so now I'm done. Your intuition is never done with you. You can never push it away so far that it would leave you, because it is as much a part of you as your brain and your heart and your blood and your skin cells and your ribs and your toes and your toenails. Your intuition is a natural part of you. It's as natural as trees sinking their roots deep into the ground, connecting with fungi and other microorganisms in the soil to share resources, to share information. If you look across species, you see sharing of information, cooperation, kindness, expansion, time and time and time and time again. Now, societally speaking, to go back to that outdated mode of reality that is conventionally accepted, there is this focus oftentimes more on contraction, more on scarcity, more on competition. It is a part of living in this human experience. It is a part of living on this planet. We are infinite souls, but we live in a finite human body. The human body does not last forever. The oldest tree does not live infinitely. The oldest tortoise does die at some point. So we have these bookends of birth and death that our physical form has. And that is a part of our reality, but it's not the whole of our reality. This is one of the reasons why in my spiritual practice and when I'm working with people, I always, my visual, because I'm a very visual person, to connect to the truth of this balance and this both and is the yin-yang symbol. On the yin-yang symbol, it's not one color of a circle. It's a circle with two swirls and two dots or two spirals, however you want to describe it, two waves. And within the white wave, there's a black dot. And within the black wave, there's a white dot. So even the person who is fully in their body and never cares or notices or thinks anything about the soul is still always there. It might be a dot of a soul in an expanse of a massive the reality of the body human experience, but it's still there. And on the flip side, even for the most spiritual person on earth who only lives from a soul perspective, if they're on earth, they're still living in a body, and that form has a beginning, it has an end, and therefore there is some level in which they are playing with some of the rules of living on the planet. And there's always a balance and a flow. One of the reasons I'm describing the two sides of the yin-yang as waves is, for me, I see that it's like a spectrum or a wave. It's an ebb and a flow. And sometimes things are low and sometimes things are high. When I use this to understand myself and my human experience in the world, it allows me to worry less about the logic and the reality. And what I often do is I actually use the yin-yang as if it were a map. Where am I now? I will ask myself in a situation. Am I where it's half and half white, half black? Is it a touch of white or a touch of black? Or is it somewhere transitioning, somewhere in the middle? Because with the both and of your life, there are so few things, except for life and death, that are totally one way or the other. And yet, even at life and death, the body is dying, but the soul is just moving form. And even as the human part of the body dies, does that mean all the bacteria instantly die? Does that mean if this body was buried just naturally in the soil, that then all of the energy in the cells are then transformed into whatever the beetles, worms, fungi, bacteria, and all them take it away and turn it into in their bodies? So it's like, yes, there is an ending. Yes, there is a beginning. And those are clear demarcations. And yet, if you delve deeper into the microcosm in that situation, still it becomes hard to have an absolute that says yes or no, there is only one way. There still is the both and, even on our most absolute moments of life. So with this leaning into the fact that we are all intuitive, we are all a part of the infinite, we are all the both and, you give yourself the opportunity to be more than your human body. Again, you can use the yin-yang if you wish, and visualize if you're the dot of the human in the sea of the infinite, you're connected to it. The yin-yang it's a connected circle. So your humanness is always connected to the infinite, which means no matter where you are, you can connect to greater intelligence, greater being, greater experiences.